So I'm halfway through this. Just a quick recap. So the question was whether the Singapore's government's pursuit of a high rate of economic growth and a low rate of unemployment necessarily translates into a higher standard of living for our citizens, right? So we're halfway through. We're on page, we're actually on the last page, right before the cons. Okay, so I'm going to go through this. We're going to move on to inflation, which is the third macro goal. Then, if we have time, then I'll give you a time chart. So depending on how much time we have, it's either going to be a part A or part B. Cool? Okay? So cons of pursuing high economic growth rate. The first one is worsening income inequality. So the key thing to remember here is that when you have high PG, right, what that really means is, for example, you get a GDP growth rate of like 10%, right? But the key thing to remember is just because national income is rising by 10%, that doesn't mean everyone's income is rising by 10%. Okay? Ultimately, whenever you get economic growth, the truth is there are winners and losers, right? There are some industries will do well better than others, right? Industries growth, uneven, right? Skilled versus non-skilled, incomes, uneven. Okay? So when your economic growth rate is really high, that means that you're going to get a bigger dispersion of income growth, right, across the population. So some people have a lot of growth, some people have a little bit, and so you get a widening income inequality. And there's this compounding effect behind it as well, right? If you're highly skilled, highly educated, highly mobile, you're going to get good jobs, you're going to get high-paying jobs that's going to pay you better and better, while the low-income groups, the low-skilled people might actually get left behind. The second one is environmental degradation and resource depletion. This is a non-material SOL point. So we're just coming back to link this back to SOL, right? So the point is that the SOL of the average person worsens. Okay? Then just be mindful that whenever we talk about SOL and we talk about the SOL of the average person, we don't actually mean average income. Because you see, right, mathematically, no matter how we distribute income, right, the average income stays the same. When we talk about the average person, from a mathematical point of view, it's more correctly understood as the median income level, the median SOL. Or what we like to refer to as the man on the street, right? What's the average person's SOL like? So when you go worsening income inequality, the SOL of the average person actually worsens. So you can think of it as the median actually worsening. Alright, so non-material SOL is the environmental degradation and resource depletion bit. Hi, good to have you back. If you want to sit there or here, or sit next to you. Good friend.
Hey.
I'm sure Alicia shares extension.
She went to.
Yeah, she went to. But she came for class first.
I have to chill there at 2:30.
PM, right? I hope.
I read in the morning.
Yeah.
I met at 6.
That's just nuts.
For the lunch time.
PM. So that's a 13-hour queuing time.
No wonder people will queue at like 9 a.m.
There's people there from 3 a.m. the previous day.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That just doesn't make
I
sense.
think one time I finished school, so you could go queue for ticket.
Not alive.
But then online one, you don't know whether the website will load or not, so you should
Yeah, the website on the day itself crashed.
Yeah, see?
Right.
The waiting time was 3 hours to get into the area to buy tickets for the online site.
Shit, that's nuts. Wow. It was like National Stadium, right? Big one, big crowd.
Yeah, but they rented indoor stadium to hold people. Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, it's a holding
Why?
ground.
Yeah, I was
There are so
there.
many people.
No, you hold them to do what?
So that you can assign them the seats.
Yeah, and so that they can go in order.
It's okay. Yes. Yeah.
Because if you don't hold them, right, it's going to be just one mass pack of people swarming into the stadium.
There were 45,000 people.
Did you print this up?
It's 45.
You don't have this. You don't have this, right?
45. What's 6 million divided by 45? It gets too small.
One sec, you can catch up. I will take your printouts. Everyone else has, right? Right.
Which cat will you?
You said,
Oh,
wait,
it's
yeah.
my friend. Oh, it's gonna have one. Yeah.
Who's the bias? You gave me orange. Dude, it's really like one in every three Instagram stories or like Instagram. Yeah, I feel like people that you must just call your high school.
Yeah, I knew some because if you're still cat, if you're those that care because you have went over you wait for some
So fainted.
people fainted during the concert.
Oh yeah, my friend fainted. Because people were cooking.
Yeah, especially if you're
Yeah, she was like my friends at the register. They had to go on to the
so what would you looking for the video?
Here, here. Okay, sorry for the wait. I'm on the last page. Yeah. Okay, so it was like, yeah, environmental degradation and resource depletion. So environmental degradation, we are basically halfway through like the cons of why pursuing high economic growth rates might not raise standard of living. Okay, that's what we are. So environmental degradation is fundamentally, well, you know, things like pollution will constitute environmental degradation. Other things will be destroy natural habitats, like the Great Barrier Reef dying and stuff like that. So all these things are more non-material as well, because it's not about consumption, right? Remember, material is always about income, consuming goods and services, but this is more like, oh, your living environment, your health, the more intangible things like, oh, if you travel, you can no longer see certain places because it's like destroyed and stuff like that. Okay, so that's environmental degradation and resource depletion. The third reason is loss of leisure time and rise in stress levels. So this is another non-material as well point. So again, as I always say, right, whenever you talk about non-material points, you should not run out of points to talk about because you can literally make things up. But non-material is actually anything that's non-consumption based. That's all. Okay, so loss of leisure time, rise in stress levels, it hurts non-material as well. Now, I just want to make a quick point. There are some people that might confuse an essay like that, right, with an indicators essay. Okay, with an indicators essay. So if we just scroll back up very quickly, okay, if you look at the question, right, the question is whether pursuit of high rate of EG and a low rate of unemployment necessarily translates into higher as well. So some people, right, especially after you finish all of macro together, everything is kind of like mashed up. You can't tell. They won't tell you which part of macro the question comes from. So a lot of people, right, they'll see that as well, and then they have a misconception, oh, I've seen this in KEI, so it must be an indicators question. Okay, it's not. So how do you tell, right? How do you tell? Oh, you see, I didn't have this problem, right, when I gave this to you, because I gave this to you after we did goals. So I really gave you the mindset. It's a factors or consequences question. It's a goals question. Goals into as well. But you can see, right, that if you look at this as a standalone, it could very well look like a KEI question. That's how you tell. You know it's not a KEI question. First of all, you're more sophisticated. You read the phrasing of the question. They ask you whether the pursuit of growth and employment means you raise as well. That means assuming, okay, if we paraphrase in English, it means assuming you get high growth and low UE. Okay, let's assume that you actually achieve it. That's your S level up. So what's the difference between this and KEI? KEI is a method of measurement. So let me put it to you this way. You know when we did GDP and unemployment rate, we said that they have limitations. you might not get the true story of how healthy the economy is. That's a measurement problem, right? Meaning, let's say the economy could be doing very well, but your GDP growth rate could be very low because much of the growth comes from the underground economy. Make sense? That means incomes are actually rising. There's more people working, but you can't capture it in the data because people are doing it off their main jobs. That means, just think about the gig economy, right? You also have the term gig economy, right? We talk about that a lot today because of sites like Fiverr. You know what Fiverr is? Probably not a good idea to tell you this, but you probably can get people to do your project for like $5 if you want. You just put out a description, pay someone $5, they'll do like stuff for you, right? That's what Fiverr is. It's a freelance portal. But beyond Fiverr, you have other sites like that as well. You have design sites, you have things that people do coding for you and all that, right? Gig economy. Even driving Uber and all that can be considered part of the gig economy, whereby you do things freelance. So with the gig economy, a lot of people will be off the formal employment track and in the gig economy track. This is not easily tracked. How much people make as freelancers, you can't tell. So even if their income is like tripling or quadrupling, it's not going to find its way into the GDP figures. Right? So that's the catch. That's the difference between a KEI question and a goals question. When you do a goals question, you don't care about the measurement aspect of things. You assume that you know, you assume that you have growth and low unemployment. It's nothing to do with the unemployment rate or the GDP growth rate. Because these two things are instruments. So the parallel I always like to make, right, is like medical equipment. Right? You could have a heart problem, but maybe when they do the ECG, they can't tell. Right? So the heart problem is like the macro problem. The ECG is the instrument, right? The GDP. So the instrument has limitations. So you've got to distinguish a debate and a discussion about the instrument versus a debate discussion about whether irregular heartbeat is a heart problem or not. You get the idea? It's just like, oh, if you get low growth, is that a problem? That's very different from, oh, what does a 2% GDP tell you? One is the instrument problem, one is about the principle behind the goal. Okay? So I thought I'd just highlight this because massive issue, right? So there was 1 year, I think it was 2 years back, so for the prelims questions, I think like 2 or 3 schools actually tested a question about SOL but wasn't really what indicated. It's okay. Alicia, can you pass to Nicholas and Nicholas class? This is last week's essay. Okay. So, where was I? Right. Yeah, so I thought I was going to highlight to you because, like, 2 years back, there was a prelim question, they tested something like this, and then people didn't do it because they thought it was KEI. So once you think it's KEI, but it's a goals question, you're dead. Okay, right, essays, I think we talked a bit about essays so far, and what I always say is you got to make sure that you figure out what the question wants. That's the first thing. You can write a pristine essay after that, but you don't get, if the question what they want, you're going to get 0. Okay, let's continue. Let's go back to the last page. We are at the link back point now. So material SOL of average person might actually worsen. No material SOL of the population who worsen overall. High rates of EG could come at the expense of rising inequality and environmental degradation and deterioration in other aspects of non-material as well. So that's just linking back to the question. Okay? Nothing new there. Cons of pursuing a low rate of unemployment. Okay, there are 2 things. So the first one is that the government might not do enough in terms of redistribution if they gauge their economic success purely on the basis of the unemployment rates. Unemployment does not equal to higher SOL, especially if wages are extremely low. So what do I mean by this? Okay, what I mean is assuming, okay, you know perfectly what the percentage of unemployed is. That means I'm taking the limitation of the measurement tool out of the discussion for a bit. And I'm saying, assuming you know 100% certainty what your unemployment rate is. If you manage your economy based on your unemployment rate that is flawless, right, it's still problematic. Why? Because you ignore importance of wages and income in SOL determination. You follow? What do I mean by that? When you do an unemployment survey, right, and you look at people who are working, if as long as you're working, you're marked as employed. but we don't think about the wages. But that makes no sense, right? Because the fundamental assumption is that, oh, you have earned wages, that means your SOL is not bad, but that might not be true. Okay, for starters, right, the wages might not be, okay, for countries that have welfare payments, right? Let's give us a good example. Welfare payments, okay? Just because you go to work, doesn't mean you're earning a lot more. You could just be earning marginally more than what welfare payments might be given. But that wouldn't improve your SOL by much. Or if in Singapore, you're working and you make $500 a month, you're not unemployed. Right? The politicians can cheer that unemployment rate is really low, but does that really mean that your economy is doing well and your SOL is rising? It's not. Right? So, this is a scenario, right? Actually, in all honesty, pursuing a low rate of unemployment has no downside. But we're trying to think about where it might go wrong. Why? Just because you get low unemployment doesn't mean the SOL is good. And we're saying that it might not be good because people might be earning really low wages. Right? They're having difficulty making ends meet. They could be working 15-hour days and barely making ends meet, and that's a horrendous standard of living. Can you understand the first point? So, the key point here, I guess, is the importance of coming up with some kind of application when you find that there are gaps in your notes. So when you go to class, I try to be quite comprehensive, which is, first of all, I try to help you fill in the blanks. It means what you might have in your lecture notes, there are things that are unexplained. I try to explain those things to you here, and I help you to strategize to find good questions. But what you will find along the way is that there are some question types that inevitably, right, we cannot prepare for. It's impossible. So the skill is always, okay, if I know that I need balance, I need to find some logical way to argue for balance. And this is one example of something like that. It's not something you can find in the notes, not even in my notes, but it's something you can come up with that can be relevant to help you justify why having a low rate of unemployment might not mean higher standard of living. Cool? Okay? The second one is a bit more standard. Right, so unemployment could fall as workers leave the labour force as they get discouraged or they have no relevant skills to seek employment. Okay, so your SOL might not rise even as your unemployment rate is falling. So this is about people exiting the labour force. Right? Building back, it is essential to consider the type of unemployment rate resolved and the changes in the labour force. While a low rate of unemployment could raise SOL, the wages earned are an equally important determinant in determining SOL. Okay? Evaluation. So I think my challenge for you last week when I gave you the question and I said focus on the evaluation was that if you can figure out what the evaluation is, then it kind of makes the essay a bit easier. So by now we're really going through the body, you understand that it's largely pros and cons of growth and employment. So, you see, for questions like that, right? For this particular one, and even macro by extension, you're going to find yourself using this phrase a lot. Okay? In full up, typically you will see my essays will end with something like that. It will say, in evaluation, whether, then I'll put in the condition that they gave me, whether this will rise as well or not, depends on, and then you give scenarios. Okay, you give scenarios. Here's the thing, for macro, right, I think I mentioned this once or twice already. Macro is most correctly understood, right? When you do the essays, macro essays are really about scenario analysis. You're analyzing scenarios, you're analyzing possible outcomes. Even you look at the body, right? Some people, when they do macro, they struggle. They'll look at the essay body and be like, you're contradicting yourself. How can growth be good and bad? So what we're trying to say is, it's not that growth is good and bad. We're saying that growth can be good or bad depending on how the growth comes about. So for the evaluation, right, we're trying to put it together and say, okay, look, So to simplify things, if this happen, growth will be unambiguously good. If this happen, SOL will rise. That is the style of essays you need to learn to write for macro. Okay, it's very similar, out of all the micro topics, right, it's the most similar to market failure policy questions. When you do macro policies, you'll find that they are quite similar. And it's quite similar in style to market structure. Because market structure is also, it depends on this, or the firm might do this, the firm might do that. That's the two closest parallel. But it's important to get comfortable with this writing style, which is, oh, it could depend on this, it could depend on that, and so on. The only time your evaluation will be less open-ended is if they give you a very long preamble, that means the paragraph before the question, and they give you a very specific context. If they give you context, then your evaluation won't be so open-ended. You will be able to give something a bit more definitive. Most often, we see very strong context questions, right, for CSQ. So when you do 8 mark, 10 marks in CSQ from macro, the difference with essay is that your depth evaluation must be a lot more definite. I'll give you a simple example, okay? You just talked about, okay, I know we haven't done macro policies, okay, but I'll give you a simple example. There's this thing called fiscal policy, right, where it involves the government spending money, cutting taxes to boost the economy. Simple. They spend money, they cut taxes, people will spend more, AD will rise, and so on. This obviously costs money, right? So you get a question now, they ask you, is fiscal policy like the best solution for this country in a CSQ, and they give you the country's GDP to debt ratio. There is the amount of debt that the government has relative to its GDP. With that number, you can give a very definitive evaluation. Oh, it might be a good solution, but they can't afford it because they're very indebted. So they have to use something else. That's what I mean by it's very definite. But if you were writing an essay, it will be open-ended. You'll be like, oh, it depends on whether the government can afford, it depends on whether the country has this, it depends on that. Ideally, it will be good for what kind of country. That's all you can say, because there's no context. Same idea here, right? So whether it will translate to higher as well, it depends on. Okay? So, my evaluation simple, the pursuit of high growth and low unemployment is generally required to improve the future as well, and to help Singapore overcome the macro challenges, right? We can generally agree with this. This is a broadly true statement. Right? Without growth and without high employment, you don't really need to talk about as well. So we can agree that by and large it leads to rising as well. But it is necessary for mitigation. Right? Particularly for sustainability and inclusiveness, which is your income inequality point, your resource and environment point. Right? Otherwise, the achievement of growth and employment could come at the expense of as well of the average person. You see that? So that's the condition. That's what I mean by, you'll say whether it will lead to this depends on what. But we can't go further because we don't know what's going on, right? Now, if you have contextual knowledge on some of Singapore's social policies, you can throw it in there and do and contextualize it. But because it's not a GP paper, they don't expect you to know to that extent. Okay, when we do policies the time, I'll teach you a little bit more, so you can see a little bit more when it comes. But now, there's no expectation of you to go further. But if you do know, then you know that Singapore's safety nets aren't that great. We are good on the education front, decent on the healthcare front, but still lacking in some areas. Not much unemployment benefits and stuff like that. So you can argue that we could do more to be more environmentally conscious, we could do more to help the lower income groups, we could do more to retrain. So yes, Singapore's income inequality is a bit of a problem, but we can do this to mitigate. So if you have context, you can always be more definite. If you don't have context, then you have to leave it like that. Make sense? Simple enough? Questions? If not, I'll move on to do inflation. Anything?
Why don't we bring in like some other goals?
Why don't we bring in some other goals? So, good question. So, if we read the question, right? The way to think about it is this. When you get macro questions or even econ questions in general, they are typically in a way, right, that's either a bit ambiguous or a bit extreme. You get what I mean? A bit ambiguous as in, they will give you a, whether it's ambiguous or extreme, let me put it like that. Whether it's ambiguous or extreme, there's normally one point of contention. Most of the time, there's one point of debate. So the scenario they gave you is, given that Singapore pursued this thing, does it necessarily raise SOL? So the point of debate is, SOL goes up, SOL does not go up. The point of debate would not be, oh, we need to pursue other goals. That doesn't really answer the question, right? The question is, assuming we pursue these two things, does SOL go up? So the point of debate is on the SOL side. So I guess that's the easiest answer that I can give you, which is, if you read the phrasing of the question is more centered on, given we pursue growth and employment, why does SOL go up or does it not? Right, because when we do part B, the trick they always teach you is look for the two sides. What's the two sides in the essay? Sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes there are questions, right, that have two conditions. Next time I'll show you. There was a 2014 TYS question that was like that. There were two conditions and 2 points of argument in one question. That was a hard question. It was 3 sentences, 3 lines long, very long question, a lot of conditions, a lot of commas. There were 2 things to debate. But most of the time you have one. That's why I always ask for 2 sides. One point of debate is just 2 sides. What's the 2 sides of the argument? So here's pros and cons. Right? Because talking about alternative goals doesn't really answer the question. Okay, let me put it this way. Okay, I just suddenly thought of an alternative you can bring in. Say for example, you want to bring inflation, but we haven't done inflation, you see. But I think you understand that we want low and stable rate of inflation, right? You don't want prices to rise too fast, too high, because you want to make sure incomes keep pace with cost of living. So you can bring in and say, oh, you know, one way that the Singapore government can make sure that the SOL of the citizens is raised is to make sure that she also pursues a low and stable rate of inflation. That's okay. That's valid. They will give you credit, but you cannot talk too much about it. That's at best an evaluation point at the end. Because you're trying to say, how can they augment whatever they are doing? Which is not very different from what I gave you in the evaluation. So you need to understand that it comes back to understanding questions, understanding the role of the point, what the main focus is, and where you can introduce alternative ones. Okay? Any more questions? That's a good question. Any more questions? Any points you don't understand, I can explain as well. If not, then look at inflation, which is today's handout. Third macro goal. And the fact is, after this macro goal, I'm going to do a bit more practice for a while before I move on to balance of payments. Okay, which is the last macro goal. The one that causes a bit more headache than the other 3. So this is the last of what we will call the internal goals of a country or internal balance of a country. If you think about the 4 macro goals, growth, inflation, employment has more to do with the domestic economy. Then balance of payments, which is about trade and investment flows and all that, has more to do with the external side of the economy. Right? So the internal side, growth, inflation, employment, and then there's the external side of the economy. So this is the last of the internal ones, inflation. As a phenomenon, right, inflation is defined as a sustained increase in general price levels. Okay? Sustained increase in general price levels. How do we know that the country is experiencing inflation? Simple. You look at a change in its CPI. Right? What's the CPI? The Consumer Price Index. Okay, what do we mean by sustained increase in general price level? Now, most CPI data around the world is released monthly. Okay, they release CPI data monthly. So if you recall what the CPI is, right, it's the base 100 thing, right? So let's say Jan is 100, Feb is 100.2, March is 100.4. This is basically what we're talking about. Okay? So there's a 2% inflation, this is a slightly, This is a 0.2% inflation. This is a slightly less than 0.2% inflation. Because month on month, you've got to compare the two numbers. You don't compare back to the 100. It's increased by 0.4% from 100, but month on month, it's a less than 0.2% increase. Right? You know that because your denominator is not 100.2. Okay? They can ask you this, they can view the data and ask you what happens to the inflation rate. They might not make you calculate, it's not in the A-level Cambridge style to make you calculate it every year. They won't test your math, but you need to know how to interpret. Okay? So make sure you know how to interpret your AI. So what basically we are trying to say is that you have inflation, but I observe that let's say over a 12-month period, you have this continuous increase in general price levels. Okay? As measured by the CPI, we call that inflation. So the next question will be, why do we need the sustained increase for us to define the phenomenon as inflation? Why do we care? Right, why be so anal? Why not just say increase in price levels? That's inflation. Why is it sustained increase in price levels? Anyone has an idea? Why do we say sustained increase? Anyone want to guess? Others, I'll just tell you.
Always increasing.
But why do we care it is always increasing? Why don't we just say that it's inflation as long as it goes up by 1 month? Okay. To answer that question, we need to come back and ask ourselves why we care about inflation. Why do we care about inflation? Why do we care about inflation? So you should know, right? And guess why do we care about inflation?
Cost of living.
Very good. So we care about inflation because of cost of living. Right? To be more specific, we can say that what we want to do when we track inflation is we want to know when there's a fundamental shift in cost of living over time. What do I mean by fundamental shift? Today, chicken rice is about an average 3 to 3.50. Right? A good 10 odd years ago it was $2. That's a fundamental shift in chicken rice prices because the $2 chicken rice is not coming back. Rentals are more expensive in Singapore. People have more purchasing power, households are wealthier, so prices have gone up. Fundamental shift in cost of living. Okay, that's what we want. Now, when you look at the way the CPI is reported and you think about it from a month-to-month basis, in economic terms, you'll say that there's a lot of noise in the data. That means there's a lot of outliers and one-off random events that could affect it. Like what? One of the biggest components in your CPI is energy. Electricity and all that. Fuel. Energy prices are always tied to oil prices. Oil prices are always tied to geopolitics. OPEC, right? Russia and US relationships, US and Middle Eastern relationships within the region. Something happens in South Africa that will affect oil prices as well. So you get a lot of these random things that will distort your CPI in any one given month. Which is why we do not consider it a phenomenon to be inflation unless we get a persistent increase in general price levels over time. Because what we want to identify is whether there's a fundamental shift in the economy. Why does it have to be fundamental shift in the economy? Here comes the second reason why we track inflation. Information. Okay? That's the second reason why we care about the inflation rate. Now you see, in micro, we learn that prices have a signaling and incentive function. Right? You learn the price mechanism with demand and supply. It tells you that, oh, if prices are rising, you should consume less and produce more, and you get to the new equilibrium. On a macro level, prices have the same value. Because don't forget, macro is made up of all the markets. So macro is made up of micro. So they have the same value. People look at industry prices, they look at the general economy prices to know how well the economy is doing. So you want to know when there's a fundamental shift in the economy. You want to know is the economy doing well? Right, so later we'll talk about what what kind of inflation data tells you that the economy is doing well? We'll talk about that in a bit. Right, but CPI inflation also has informational value. It guides business and political decision-making process. You know that from our study of CPI. Under users of CPI is that business and political decision-making. Right? So there's informational value. So we cannot be misled by that one-off change. I give you a simple example. There are policies, obviously, to bring inflation rates down. Right? So it cannot be, oh, back on the wall, right? Then next moment we try to do something to bring things down. Or let's say Malaysia has a drought, right? Or a flood, and they are one of our biggest food sources. And then food prices spike and your CPI go up, and then the government does a reactive action. Cannot. It doesn't make sense because it's a one-off event. Right? You want to manage your inflation rate on a medium to long-term basis. So you care about underlying trends. That's why we call for sustained change in general prices. Okay? Couple of other terminologies associated with the concept of inflation. There's this concept of disinflation, which is where you have a fall in the rate of inflation. That means if 1 year's inflation rate is plus 5%, then it's plus 4, plus 3, plus 2, that's disinflation. Still inflation, prices still going up, just at a lower rate. Okay, disinflation. Deflation, which we'll have, I think page 6 or page 5, 100% dedicated to it. So we'll come back to it in a bit. But basically, deflation is the opposite of inflation. Deflation is a persistent fall in general price levels. Okay? Persistent fall in general price levels. That's when you get deflation. Okay? Stagflation. Stagflation is a special type of inflation. Stagflation occurs when prices are rising, but real output is stagnant or falling. Okay, so here comes your first little exercise. Okay? Using your ADES diagrams, draw me all the ways that stagflation can occur. Just sketch, don't use ruler, just draw a mini one. Right? So using your ADES diagrams, right? So I'm basically telling you figure out what shifts are. Right? Okay, ADES diagram, just come up with it, freehand, small sketch, right? How many ways can stagflation occur? 3, 2. What's your one? What do you shoot? Okay. So you see, you want prices to rise, as in GPL to rise, outputs falling or stagnant. Okay. So whenever I ask you stuff like that, even when you do essay questions and they give you scenarios and they ask you for impacts and you don't know, always make it multiple choice for yourself. There's only 3 possibilities. As in your starting point is that there's 3 possibilities. Correct. So this is your starting point. Right, then from there you just decide up or down, up or down, up or down. There's only 6 different possibilities. Assuming they happen in isolation. If they happen together, then there's more permutations. So in theory, in principle, there are 3 ways we can get stagflation. Okay? The most common way, and the way that scares the hell out of politicians, is this one. But this is very hard to fix quickly. Okay? So a fall in SRAS could give you stagflation. The other way is if your AD is rising up the vertical portion of your AS curve, then you're going to get stagflation as well, because you're not going to be able to employ more people, your incomes are not going to rise further, your output is not going to rise further, but you're going to get very high inflation rates. The last way only happens in theory and hardly happens in practice is if your LRAS shifts leftwards. Then you're going to get rising GPL and falling output as well. Cool? That's the 3 ways. Okay. Okay, now there's generally 2 causes of inflation. Demand pull? Yeah. Oh, you needed it.
No, it's okay, but like the first one, like when your Is it because SRS increase or decrease?
Oh, SRS, yeah, so always remember, this one is very confusing because it shifts up, but this is falling SRAS when there's rising aggregate COP. Okay, so this is bad. Although it's an up arrow, but it's bad. The only in theory one is the LRAS one. The reason for that is because, okay, so there's a few different school of thoughts, but most schools will tell you that, okay, in theory, it's okay to draw LRAS shifting left. Totally fine. The problem is you're going to find it difficult to justify why maximum productive capacity is falling. Okay? Simple reason, like, one of the most common things people like to say if LRAS will fall is aging population. But as I explained to you a couple of lessons back, I said aging population, right, doesn't mean your labor force shrink today. Actually, what aging population means at the start of the aging population cycle, right, is that the rate of labor force growth will slow. Because your change in labor force is a function of graduates minus retirees. If your birth rate is falling today, the people don't enter the labor force at least for 16 years. You see that? So it almost doesn't matter. Today, you've got a 16-year runway, right? And then there's also things like immigration, technological advancement, gains in efficiency, and so on. So in practice, in real life, right, it's very hard to find a case, right, of countries stagnating because their LRAS cannot grow, unless you are a developing country. Then most of the time, right, they'll be constrained by infrastructure and the lack of funds and investments. But even then, it's very hard to see LRAS falling. So let me give you an example of when LRAS might actually fall. It will fall if you have a war. Because when there's a war, you're going to blow shit up. A lot of people are going to die, a lot of buildings are going to get blown up. You will literally disrupt the economy. You will literally disrupt the maximum productive capacity. Because you literally can't ship stuff. Your office don't exist. There isn't people to work. You can't produce as much as you could before. Simple as that.
So natural disasters count.
Natural disasters count, but they have to be on a large enough scale. Right? So let's say, I mean, it's unfortunate, but let's say a tsunami hits a beach resort, right? And it wipes the beach resort out. But then the question is, how much of GDP is that? But if you talk about like Japan, like the nuclear disaster, that was probably a big hit for them. Because not only did it like destroy stuff in the vicinity, hordes of people left Japan after the disaster. So that kind of stuff like makes sense. Or if you have a massive earthquake and like 2 million people died. Okay, then yeah, probably. So I'm hesitant to say natural disasters can lead to a fall in productive capacity. So what we tend to say is that it could stagnate or it could slow the rate of growth. That's a more conservative and more reasonable way to talk about how LRAS will be affected. Right? Because anything negative will slow the rate. That is unambiguous. But for it to fall, we need something a lot more extreme. Okay, good questions, good questions. It will make more sense to you when we start writing essays. Now I give you a lot of rules, right? You just take them numbers. Then when we do essays, you understand why I give you these things to pay attention to. Okay, so causes of inflation, there's two. It's very easy to remember because it's demand side and supply side. So demand pull, and on the next page later you will see cost push. Okay, demand pull inflation, cost push inflation. That's just two. Okay, we don't even put LRAS in the picture. That is in theory it can happen, right? But we kind of leave it out. Okay, so first one is demand pull inflation. Very simple. What is the factors that drive demand pull inflation? Any factor that drives components of AD. So anything that affects C, G, I, X minus M that affects AD can cause demand pull inflation. Simple as that. Okay? Simple as that. Now, for that demand pull inflation, your AD has to be rising up the intermediate range of the AS curve. Okay? That's the main thing you have to pay attention to. Okay? That's the main thing you have to pay attention to. If you, of course, increase it in the horizontal range, there's going to be no inflation. So it has to be up the intermediate range. Okay, so any factor that affects any of this thing could cause inflation. Your trading partner is doing very well, the economy is booming, they buy a lot of stuff from you, can cause inflation. Your wealth is rising, can cause inflation. Confidence improve, increase investments, can cause inflation. Government spend more money, increase G, can cause inflation. Any of those things can cause inflation as long as you have a persistent rise in GPL. So what I've drawn for you over there, which is what you should take down, is when we want to show a case of inflation, so we'll draw a persistent rightward shift. We'll draw two shifts normally, so that you see the GPL rising twice. Okay, when you use this diagram, actually you have a very narrow use for this diagram. You only use it right if your essay explicitly states for inflation and they're asking you an inflation-based essay. Remember the question we did last week? Distinguish between actual and potential growth. If you get a similar style question like that for inflation, then you draw diagrams like this. Okay? When they are explicitly testing you on inflation, then you want to show this. Why am I emphasizing it like that? Because most of the time, the macro questions that you get do not ask you explicitly for the goal. They're too easy to do. So they typically give you scenarios where AD will rise and just shift one time. That means more often than not, you'll be dealing with scenarios that look like this. Okay, that look like this. So a simple example, you will get questions that say things like, oh, discuss the impact of rising global trade tensions and an aging population on the Singapore's macroeconomy. Right, discuss the impact of rising global trade tension and aging population on the Singapore economy. So those kind of scenarios you have to plug and throw into the ADAS, then decide the impact on the growth. So what I'm trying to say to you is that, let's say you have a scenario where you have something, they give a scenario, let's say, they say, oh, now Singapore signed a new free trade agreement with the whole African continent so that we can export more stuff to them. Then you will know that the impact is like that, correct? You will conclude that it's like this. Then after you draw this, you do mechanism, you have to talk about goals. So the question is, do you call this inflation or not? Right? How do you deal with a diagram like that? So I'm going to teach you. If you draw something like this and you talk about it, we say rise in inflationary pressures. Okay? We say rise in inflationary pressures. If you have one shift, it rise, say rise in inflationary pressures. You have one shift and it falls, fall in inflationary pressures. Then your question will be, what in the world is inflationary pressures? Okay, so very simple. In layman terms, you understand it as the likelihood that there will be inflation. Okay? The likelihood that there will be inflation. So why do I have to phrase it like that? Right? Why do I have to say, oh, why is inflation pressures? For inflation pressures. Why can't I just say inflation? Okay, so here's the thing, it comes back to definition. Okay? Number one, it comes back to definition. I need a sustained increase in GPL for it to be inflation. Number one. Number two, this is a limitation of the ADS model. This model is static. It shows you a one period, one shift occurrence. But the real economy is dynamic. That's why we want sustained increase in GPL. We want to know how things change over time. So if today you sign an FTA and your AD go up, yeah, I mean, maybe for the next 2 months you'll see an increase in GPL. But then after that, right, what's the general pattern of CPI? That's what we're trying to establish when we say sustained increase in general price levels. So all we can conclude when we see one shift is that we can conclude that if your GPL is rising, it increases the chances of inflation. If it's falling, it lowers the chances of inflation. That's it. That's why we describe it as such. Okay? Rather than saying inflation or deflation. Because then you're going to have difficulty justifying your essays. Again, you will see why when we do more questions. But you're going to find it difficult to explain essays and explain solutions if you don't describe them as such, and everything is just called inflation. Okay? Questions? Okay. Now, rising AD at the intermediate range. This here is the mechanism. You're going to recognize it as being very familiar because it's similar to what I gave you in the ADAS chapter under models of macro. So So you see a very similar mechanism there. As I said, with this mechanism, it's not like micro, it's not so rigid. If your school has a slight deviation from this, it's fine, as long as there's some semblance of reasoning as to why GPL rises as you go up the intermediate range. But this explanation is important in the inflation essay, because you need to explain how the inflation comes about. Okay, so this is the mechanism behind it. So like for unemployment, we have the explanation for what is structural unemployment, how it comes about. This is the equivalent of it. We are just explaining how the inflation will rise. Okay, so it can be due to any of the components of AD rising. There could be inflation if your AD is rising at the intermediate range. Okay, so the key is to always remember that it's about the supply bottleneck, right? It's about the scarcity of FOP driving up factor cost. Right? If you're always confused about the mechanism, just think about it like that. You see, when you raise AD in the horizontal range, your AD go up by 100 mil, your output goes up by 100 mil, correct? When you go up the intermediate range, your AD can rise by 100 million, but your net increase in output will be way less, maybe 40 million only. Right? So the question is why? Why don't firms just produce the 100 million inputs for you? The problem is that it costs them more to produce more for you. Such that if you want to pay the same old price, they cannot produce more because their profit margins will go down. Right? That's the core logic. The core logic is scarcity, bottlenecking of resources means my production cost goes up. So the simple example is you look at Silicon Valley today. Right? You rewind back 10 odd years, 15 years to the last dot-com bubble. You all know, heard of the dot-com bubble? Early 2000s, right? All the tech companies, a lot of them were scams. They didn't really have a business model. They went to IPO and they made a lot of money, but investors got left on the hook. So after that first round of cleansing, you got the big tech firms, right? You got Amazon was started in 97, Yahoo, Apple was already there then, Microsoft was there then, right? These tech companies back then, when they want to produce software, they got no lack of software developers, right? Very easy to hire because there's only few of them. But today it's going to be so much more challenging because if you're in the valley, Facebook will compete with Snap, compete with Twitter, compete with Apple, Google, Amazon, and a whole lot of them for same software engineers. So how do you hire software engineers when there's a lack of them? You have to offer them higher and higher wages, which means it's going to cost you incrementally more to produce. So unless you can charge more, you will never be willing to produce more goods and services. That's the intuition there. Right? That's what causes inflation. It's that bottlenecking, it's that scarcity driving up resource costs, that will make you need higher GPL to increase production. And it's the interaction, it's kind of like micro, right? It's kind of like a shortage, bidding, prices up kind of scenario going on. Okay? So that's the monthly inflation, that's the diagram that you draw, and that's the mechanism that you put in. Alright? Okay, so for cost push inflation, actually you're already seeing the diagram for it because it's actually the first stagflation diagram. Okay, that's cost push inflation, and it occurs when aggregate cost of production goes up. So I have a list of 6 different ways that we could get cost push inflation here. The most important 4 are this, of which the most important one is C, because C is most relevant to Singapore, and you will find that a lot of macro essays are going to be very Singapore-centric. There's an expectation that you know Singapore's economy well. Okay, so the essay will be very Singapore-centric. We will actually have I will be giving you a set of macro notes, probably in term 2, that's just on Singapore, to help you relate everything we learned in macro to the Singapore economy so that you can write about the Singapore economy. Right? They expect you to know, they expect you to apply your macro knowledge to Singapore. Okay, so as I was saying, cost push inflation, rise in aggregate COP, Right, what that really means is cost of production in your economy overall must be rising. Okay? Meaning, whatever FOP we're talking about must be quite substantial. Meaning something like oil. If oil prices go up, almost everyone's cost of production goes up. Plastic costs will go up, transport costs will go up, petrol costs will go up, all of these costs will go up, electricity prices will go up. So you need this kind of big stuff, okay? So first one is wage push. Okay, increases in wages in the economy could lead to cost push inflation, obviously. So one of the ways that this could happen is if you implement or you increase the minimum wage rate, then obviously you get wage push inflation. Even if unions would negotiate for higher wages, that could cause wage push inflation as well. If you do things like change foreign worker quota, that could also cause wage push inflation, right? Because you change the size of the labor force. Eventually, I guess if you talk about aging population, yeah, there could be wage push inflation as well. It gets costlier and costlier to hire workers because there's a shrinking labor force, then you get wage push inflation. Okay, pretty simple. B is increase in the price of raw materials or inputs. So, raw materials and inputs. We are largely referring to things like metals, commodities, and so on. Are these things that affect large swaths of the economy we expect to result in a rise in the aggregate cost of production? Right? Metals, you see it everywhere. Like I said, oil, so that falls under commodities. Even food prices could affect a lot of industries quite substantially as well. Food prices go up, the entire hospitality, F&B sector, everyone gets hit. Right? So that could be quite a substantial contributor to cost push inflation as well. Okay? Imported inflation. Okay, so imported inflation, the background of course is, the assumption here is that you import factors of production, right? Raw materials, resources. So the main confusion that people will have is what's the difference between B and C? So here's the deal. B is taking a local perspective, meaning in your US, okay, your local oil, your crude that you get through fracking, prices go up, that's a raw material point. Imported inflation, as I said, is more relevant to Singapore because Singapore imports most of our raw materials. So if it's imported inflation, there's two functions to it. The first one is exchange rate, and the second one is the price of the FOP itself. So you're subject to two things. Your exchange rate, because your exchange rate will determine how much you pay in local currency. You want to get a sense of something like that? Very simple. Imagine you VPN to Amazon US website and you want to try to order something. Or even no VPN, just order something from Amazon US. Right? They display something to you in US dollars. How much they actually charge you in your credit card bill finally depends on your exchange rate. So the weaker your exchange rate, the more you end up paying when you convert to Singapore dollars. Right? I think you all largely understand that relationship. So that's where exchange rate has a big part to play in imported inflation. Because for you, if you're shopping on Amazon, it could be a couple of cents. If you're a country buying like $10 billion of oil, it could be millions of dollars in difference in cost of production for the economy. Okay, so there's two functions. There's the exchange rate bit and then there's the price of the FOP bit. This is how much you pay in local currency. Okay, the price of FOP bit. Meaning if you're importing oil from China and China's demand and supply change and the oil prices change, you are affected by that as well. So you're always exposed to the currency risk as well as the demand and supply risk of whichever region you're buying from. Okay? The most is imported inflation. D, structural inflation, it's not a very important point, we don't use it. I think some of you probably don't even have it in your notes. But the long story short is, structural inflation is like, it's about bureaucracy, right? It's about difficulties in allowing the free market to work perfectly in your economy. And so, as a result of that, your aggregate cost of production tends to be higher than other people. Right? So, I think I talked about Japan before. So countries like Japan, very difficult to hire and fire staff, so you end up getting a very bloated, management structure, a lot of senior executives, a lot of salaries, inflated salaries, and that translates into very high cost of production for the economy in general. So structural inflation is not really like a standalone point per se. It's kind of like because of bureaucracy and the structural rigidities of the economy, it leads to a manifestation of the other types of causes of inflation. But like I said, most of your notes probably won't have this. You probably won't see much of this, so I wouldn't worry too much. Profits push is very related to theory of the firm, market structure. It has to do with cases where your economy has substantial market power, whether monopoly or oligopoly, in key raw material or FOP industries. Simple example is if your utility company is one monopoly, they want to raise prices, your SRS will ship up. Because they can hurt the economy entirely. You see, they want to raise prices to raise profits, they can just kill the economy just by raising prices, you'll shoot SRS up. So that's what profits push is. When you got, it must be high market power, then they can pursue profits in this way by raising prices. And it has to be critical industries, right? If you own a fast food chain and you raise prices, no one cares. That wouldn't cause cost push inflation, right? But if you own the utility company, the telco, you know, the main national rail line or whatever, then you could cause cost push inflation. Last one, tax push. Okay, an increase in indirect taxes such as VAT or GST, right? Obviously, when you raise your GST and VAT, it affects all the firms in the economy. Right, so I'm sure you all heard the government announced, is it this year? Or is the GST supposed to be this year? No, right, like 2021 or something. So this will be interesting, right? If you raise GST, you expect this to happen. And by 4, I mean it goes up. So what's the government's considerations here? What might make them want to put off the GST hike, as in postpone the GST hike? Or what might make them say that it's okay to do the GST hike? What will be the perfect, okay, that's your tell me either the perfect circumstance to hike GST, or what circumstance will make the GST hike, like, kill the economy? Like, be really, really bad. Sorry?
Recession.
Recession, right? Absolutely. So if you imagine you have a scenario where economic growth is really, really weak, like anything is falling, and then you have this, then you're really screwed. Right? Because your output is going to fall a lot, your unemployment is going to rise, right? And then you might have some inflation in the process as well. So the perfect combination, right, of when you can withstand this is, of course, when AD is rising, when you got strong growth, so that you negate the falling output aspect of it. And how do you negate that? You negate that if, let's say, there's efficiency or productivity gains in your economy, right? Or falling labor costs, or falling raw material costs or something. So you can pick the right timing to hike GST, so that your economy can withstand it better. Cool? Can follow everything so far? Okay. Any questions? So we've just done factors. The factors for inflation is really quite easy. This one, right, the mechanism. Sorry, I didn't actually give it to you in the notes, so I'll write it for you at the side. Okay, it's a lot simpler, a lot more compact than the AD one. This is the key bit, which is when aggregate cost of production rise, firms require higher general price levels to produce the same amount of output to protect their profit margins. Profit margins, right? Wait, sorry, I'm missing the word profit. Okay, when aggregate cost of production rise, firms require higher GPL to produce same amount of output to protect profit margins. What's profit margin? Simple lah. If you sell a pair of shoes for $100 and your and after all your costs, you're going to keep 20 bucks, your net profit margin is 20%. So this margin thing is very important for entrepreneurs and business owners because that tells them how much money they can make, which will then determine how much risk they are willing to take in doing and starting a business. So if your cost is going up, firms will always require higher prices to defend their margins, otherwise they'll just exit. They'll just shut down. Right? You want to know how that works, you just think back to your market structure. You shift your MC curve upwards, what happens? Firms will charge more. Very logical, it comes back from your micro theory. So we need to plug it out of nowhere. It's based on that micro, right? Right, so this is the reason why your whole SRAS will shift up. Because what does SRAS mean, right? It tells you that at this price level, I'm willing to produce this much. Correct? That's how to read the AS curve. So now, I need a higher price level to produce the same amount of output because my cost of production has gone up. Very simple. So because of that, it will cause inflation. Simple? Okay? Questions? If not, then we go on to page 4. This is the slightly heavier page because this is all the consequences. So in terms of difficulty, honestly, this is going to be a lot more challenging than the earlier page. The factors page is quite easy. Okay, now. Most of your notes, okay, the lecture notes in school especially, will be centered around this. Okay, this is something I added in for you because you actually need to answer essay questions on them, but no one tells you explicitly why we aim for low and stable rate of inflation. Okay? So, just to recap, what it means to have a low and stable rate of inflation is for most developed world, we want like 2%. So what that will mean in an ideal world is something like, in January, we do 0.2%, then we 0.2%, 0.1, 0.2, all the way until the end of the year, right? Your CPI goes from 100 to 102. That will be the best. That is low and stable inflation. Every month, just 0.1%, 0.2%, 0.1%, 0.2%. Over 12 months, you get 2%. That's the best. But it doesn't happen like that in real life, of course. Okay? So ideally, you want something along those lines. In real life, probably if you get like plus 0.5, then 0.1, that's still okay. You'd want like up 4%, down 6%, and that's the amount. So if it's the decimal place of percent, it's generally quite okay. So that's what low and stable inflation is. Why people struggle with writing essays and answers about benefits of low and stable inflation, based on this, you see, if you look back at your growth and employment, right, their benefits and costs is very simple. Costs we just typically flip them. You get what I mean? Like the good side about growth is you flip it, you get, what if you don't have growth? But inflation you can't flip. There's a big problem. So people struggle, like give you this and I ask you about this, right? You're gonna have a difficulty. You know why? Because they're actually too similar. Because both of them means GPL rising. Both of them means cost of living is rising. So why in the world do we want cost of living to rise? You see the problem? Having a low and stable rate of inflation expectation actually sounds nuts. Because we want GPL to rise. We want, effectively, cost of living to rise. So how can that be a goal, right? That's what people struggle with when they try to write answers to this. They can't figure out why in the world do you want prices to rise. So let me tell you this. In a nutshell, the biggest value of a low and stable rate of inflation is information and expectations. Okay? In a nutshell, that's the biggest reason why we want a low and stable rate of inflation rather than no inflation or deflation. If we want to talk about SOL level, just as a sub point, a low and stable rate of inflation basically allows income growth, redistribution to ensure that your income growth can outpace your rate of inflation. Logical? If you get a very high rate of inflation, it's very hard to keep growing nominal GDP at that rate. But if you keep your rate of inflation down, You don't need as high a nominal GDP growth rate to be growing in real terms. Agree? Make sense? Okay. So let me tell you what I mean by information and expectation. So let's look at the first point, right? Promotes investment and in turn potential economic growth. So there's two parts to this. The first one is inflation and inflation expectations affect savers. Today you go to the bank and you put money in the bank, right? You save. Why do you save? Why do you put money in the bank? You know what people used to do, right? You watch those kind of older movies. What do they do with their money? They put it in a biscuit tin, right? Or they hide it under the mattress. Or they hide it somewhere in the house. Why is that unwise? Why is that dumb?
It's not safe.
Yes, your money might get stolen, but why do people put money in the bank?
Because like,
Interest rate?
Yes, it's safe. Yes, but it's interest, right?
because like inflation.
Yeah, and because of inflation. So people are aware that things get a bit more expensive over time. So they want to save to protect themselves against inflation. Now here's the catch. You cannot protect yourself against inflation because inflation happens in the future, but the saving and the interest rate is locked in today. So the only time you're willing to save is if you have certainty on the inflation rate. Meaning if today I go to the bank and the bank is going to pay me 3% interest a year and I expect inflation to be stable around 2%, I will be happy to save because I'm going to profit by 1%. Or at the very least, if the bank pays me 2%, I will be willing to save in the bank because I know I will at least be able to protect the value of my money. So that's the first half of that point. Because without savings, banks do not have money to lend. With no money to lend, there will be no investments, there will be no I. Without I, there will be no AG and there will be no PG. Okay? Very important. From the firm's perspective, okay? From the firm's perspective, so the first half, as I just described to you, is about savings. Okay? Savings drives investments. I think I briefly mentioned this concept of loanable funds. Very briefly, I'm not sure if I wrote it for you. You can just take it down. Savings form the loanable funds in the economy. As the name suggests, it's the amount of funds that banks can make loans with. They can lend out their money, right? That's what loanable funds is. So savings drive investment because savings drive loanable funds. Then later on when we learn interest rate, you will learn that when you increase the supply of loanable funds, interest rate goes down. It becomes cheaper to borrow. It's simple demand and supply. Okay? You will learn that interest is the price of money. So increase the supply of loanable funds, interest rate goes down, it becomes cheaper to borrow, there's going to be more investments. So that's the savings side of the argument. The second side of the argument is really firm confidence. You see, I can only make the decision today to set up a factory, buy machinery, incur all this cost, if I can be fairly certain of how much I can sell things for in the future. And all firms want to sell at higher and higher prices. Just look at Apple. Right? Ridiculous. The phone price, like, I think tripled in like 10 years. Right? That's a massive price increase, but that's what they did. So this is quite crucial also, because when there's rising prices, when there's inflation, firms know, you see, I pay today's prices to buy my machinery, but I sell at higher and higher prices over time as prices climb. So inflation is great for firms because it means higher profits. Conversely, you can understand why deflation is very bad. Because deflation means falling profit expectation. So inflation is very important to drive investment behavior. Because it means higher profits. Okay? Now, at the same time, right, not only does rising prices means higher profits, but it also means the economy is healthy. Generally, it's a generalization, but it means that the economy is healthy. Why do I say that? Why inflation means the economy is healthy? Because inflation suggests that when there's inflation, it generally suggests that AD is rising, AD is strong. Then you get inflation. So you all remember when you did economic growth with me? Remember I taught you to draw the ideal growth diagram? Remember what was the little thing I told you to make sure? I told you to make sure that when your AD rises with your AS, it rises by a bit more. so that your GPR increase is positive. Because your target is low and stable inflation. The positive expectations to drive investments is very important. Okay? Okay, so that's the first point. Towards investments, which drives actual and potential growth. No, that's not very well. It's okay. Okay, second point. Economic agents can take actions to protect themselves. So this is tied in quite closely with what I said about defending your purchasing power, assets that offer high returns. Banks can raise nominal interest rates to keep real interest rates positive. What that means is nominal interest rate, like nominal GDP, ignores the effect of inflation. So when you go to the bank and you want to save money, right, the interest rate they offer you is nominal. The real interest rate is nominal minus inflation is your real interest rate. So if your real interest rate is not positive, right, no one will save with you. Right? Or at least it has to be zero, otherwise no one wants to save with you. Thereby at least maintaining as well and purchasing power in the economy on aggregate. This point, in a nutshell, is really about certainty. The certainty helps people to protect themselves. Okay, number 3 is about X minus M and your BOP. If your rate of inflation is low relative to the other parts of the world, you will get increases in X minus M as other countries' inflation rate exceeds yours. Make sense? Because their exports become more expensive, people will choose to buy from you, their citizens will choose to buy from you. So a low and stable rate of inflation helps you with international competitiveness. The underlying assumption here, of course, is that all countries, or most countries around the world, are pursuing a low and stable rate of inflation. So we want to keep our inflation rate low, lower than theirs, right? So that we keep ourselves competitive. If we don't make the assumption that everyone is generally going to have rising general price levels, then our objective will be we want deflation. Because that's the best way to boost your export competitiveness, because your exports are getting cheaper. But that doesn't make sense. A persistently deflationary phase is bad for the global economy. So most of the time we find ourselves in an expanding inflationary phase. So our objective is to make sure our inflation rate is lower than other people's one. Okay, so it's good for X minus M, it's good for AG, it's good for your BOP. It's good for employment, of course, in that process also. Okay? So if you put 1 and 3 together, you get 0.4. Which leads me back to... Oh, I didn't print it there. Okay. If you look at the 4 points, you put them all together, actually what I'm telling you is this. If you think about it, right, inflation by itself yields 0 benefits. You look at the entire list, right, there's nothing that is directly about inflation. That's why they don't even print it for you in the notes. Because the truth is, out of your 4 macro goals, right, there are only 2 that's really important. Growth and employment. Inflation is what I always call a backdrop. You don't write this into your essay, it's just a layman term. What I mean is inflation is really a backdrop for growth. A low and stable rate of inflation is the foundation upon which you can have sustainable economy. Without which, right, you cannot have growth. If your inflation rate is negative, then it's going to hurt full confidence. There's not going to be there's not going to be spending, you're going to have a problem. If it's too high, you've got the same issue. No one wants to spend, households want to spend, homes want to spend, you also have an issue. So it's a backdrop. That's why you look at the points, nothing is really directly about the benefits of inflation. Rising general price levels logically cannot be good for you. But it's good because it creates a virtuous cycle for growth to continue. Okay? Any questions for this part? Okay, let us talk about the right side. Consequences of a high and stable or unanticipated rate of inflation. So this is if your target is 2%, but you keep going up 4, down 6, up 8, down 10, that kind of stuff. Or consistently 4% every year. That's also bad, right?
Which one is the most important
What do you mean?
in the list?
Oh, this one I'll tell you later. The first one is called standard of living. Right, so this is the most direct impact of having high and stable inflation, and that is in direct contrast to this one.
One question, right? Is it if it's increase 4%, then decrease 6%, then that kind of thing, it's
Yeah.
not exactly sustained decrease or increase, right? So it's exactly inflation.
So you will look at over time, right? Over the entire course of the year, do they find themselves at a higher general price levels? Okay, so in real life, right? Okay, it's a good question because in real life, right, no one really looks at inflation like that. First of all, there's more than one price index. Well, we only teach you one. It's called the consumer price index. There's a purchasing manager index, which looks at, there's an index that tracks how much cost of production and raw materials actually cost. So in real life, right, when you actually analyze inflation trends, it's not so simple. You don't just look at one index. You look at multiple indices and you cross-reference with the other macro indicators for you to figure out, right, what the inflation is really like in the economy. And you will actually care about the underlying causes as well. I'll give you an example. So later on, right, on page 5 or 6, you'll see that deflation is damn bad, okay? So the funny thing is, I think Singapore last year, from 2017 to 2018, I cannot remember which periods of the 2 years, but for 18 months, right, our CPI was negative. 18 consecutive months. Why? Oil prices kept falling. Because that was on the back, right, of a post-fracking oil boom. You know what fracking is, right? US basically managed to get oil out of rocks. That's the easiest way to put it, right? The technology allowed them to extract oil. So they are projecting US to become a net oil exporter in like 2020 because they are producing a lot of oil themselves now. So because of that, global oil supply rose. So oil prices kept falling. Singapore imports a lot of oil, right? So we're having deflation for 18 months. But the economy has been great. It's been fantastic. Although on paper, in principle, the CPI fell for 18 months straight. Negative every month, right? But no one panicked, no one worried and all that because in real life, you look at the underlying cost. Oil prices keep falling is good for us, right? We are net energy importer, we consume energy, right? Then we re-export the oil that we refine. Actually, we export a lot of oil. That's the funny thing. So we import a lot of crude, we refine, and then we sell. Right? So it's actually good for us because our raw material costs are coming down when oil prices go down. So it's a very good question because when we teach you, we need to streamline it for you to write essays. But in practice, right, it's not so simple. It's not saying, oh, we just look at how many months. And all. So to try to get you to understand, I give you the scenario where, oh, that's what it needs to be good. But in real life, it's so much more complex. Like every major bank in the world has an economist. Like it's a full-time job. If it were as easy as looking at CPI data, right, then you don't need economists to do it. So at a higher level, if you ever are crazy enough to do economics in uni, then you'll learn that econs depends a lot of stats. So you do time series analysis, you load like maybe 10 years of data sets, and then you do regression and all that, you find a pattern, then you use it to project your inflation rates. So that's how it will work in real life. But for us, we simplify. We just look at the CPI. Okay, going back to this. So for as well, this is very easy. High and unstable inflation rate reduces the purchasing power of money. Okay, it erodes your income, erodes your wealth, and basically it lowers the standard of living because you can buy less stuff. Okay. Number 2, hindering economic growth by creating uncertainty. Okay, so this is key. Right? Firms will cut back investments if they have less visibility on future profitability. If I don't know how much I can sell stuff for, I don't know how much I can make, I'm never going to invest. COI is going to fall. Okay? There's one point here that says higher rates of inflation tends to be associated with higher interest rates, which will discourage consumption of consumer durables. What are consumer durables? This is important. Please learn this. Generally, we split consumer goods into 2 categories: durables and non-durables. Quite self-explanatory, right? When I put it like that. So the question is, how do we define them and how do we categorize them? Depending on the country, they actually define durables and non-durables slightly differently. But durables is anything that generally lasts for more than a year. Non-durables is less. Some countries define it as 3 years, but it's just an economic accounting thing. So the best example of durables, furniture, right? Cars, things like that, gadgets, durables. Okay? Non-durables, food, clothing. I know most of us wear our clothes for more than a year. That's why it's a bit arbitrary, the definition, right? But non-durables will be like food, clothing, stuff that you use and throw and so on. So why is it that we focus on durables when we talk about rates of interest? Because you don't buy chicken rice, right, by borrowing money from the bank. You borrow money from the bank to buy a car. You borrow money from the bank. In some cases, you can actually borrow money to finance your like gadget purchases. So you go to courts, right? Courts will try the banks and they offer you like interest-free loans or low interest installments or like TVs and stuff like that. So people normally buy durables on credit. That's why interest rates affect them. But if you're not buying something on credit by borrowing, it doesn't affect you. That's why we explicitly say durables. Okay? So just like I told you, higher rates of inflation, banks will raise rates. But if you have to raise rates very quickly, very suddenly, to keep up with the rate of inflation, then it will discourage borrowing and consumption and spending by firms. Okay? Savers will cut back on savings, that affects loanable funds. And further discouraging investments, so it's going to hit you in terms of both actual and potential growth. Okay? Number 3, deterioration of the country's BOP and depreciation. So this one is when your inflation rate is too high, your export revenue will fall, your expense will fall, you will worsen your balance of payments. Okay? I'm not going to dwell too long on this because we haven't done BOP and exchange rates. So you will come back and familiarize yourself with this after we finish BOP and exchange rates. Okay? Number 4, arbitrary redistribution of income, worsening income distribution. Okay, so basically what this point is that when you get a high and unstable rate of inflation, it worsens income inequality, generally. Okay, so let's look at why. First one is fixed versus variable income earners. Okay, note that there are exceptions to all these things, but this is a broad generalization, right? So for example, in fixed and variable income earners, who are fixed income earners? For fixed, best examples would be like pensioners, people who earn minimum wage, right? Basically, the more low-skilled, the more impoverished part of society earn fixed incomes. Who earn variable incomes? Top of the list, business owners. In terms of inflation, your profits go up because profits are measured in nominal terms, right? The amount of profits you make is price times quantity, which is revenue minus cost. So in inflationary times, generally, you get higher profits. You get higher profits, your income's higher. Right? Salespeople, right? Or even management of big companies. When the company does well, they pay a bonus based on higher profits. So what we see is that generally, low income, more on fixed, low income, low skilled, more on fixed income. Right? High income, high skilled, more on variable income basically. Which means that in terms of inflation, the fixed one gets hit because their real income falls. Right? But the wealthy people, they will get higher incomes. So you get a widening income gap. Right? There will be rising income inequality when you have high inflation. Okay, so that's the fixed versus variable income earners. Okay? Second one, workers and strong trade union versus weak trade union. Same idea, right? In times of high and stable inflation, if you are a strong union, strong in the sense that you have bargaining power, then you are more likely to be able to protect yourself. So then the question is, what kind of unions will be strong and what kind of unions will be weak? Now, I think a lot of us have the impression that trade unions are only for low-skilled workers. That's not true. There are unions for pilots, there are unions for nurses, I think there are even unions for doctors in some, I think Australia or something. Right? So a lot of these Western countries, not so much in Asia, but a lot of these Western countries have unions for a lot of different jobs. So if the high-skilled ones are in strong unions and the low-skilled ones are in weak unions, logical, right? Because the high-skilled ones will have more bargaining power. Right? So if the pilots strike and Lufthansa, all the flights cannot fly, the company will budge. Right, but it's one of those things where if you're a construction worker union and then part of you strike, then we'll just fire all of you and bring in new people from a different country. Right, because your skills are more easily replaceable. So that's the difference. So again, high skill will benefit in inflation, low skill will suffer in inflation. Debtors versus creditors. Now this is the one that's quite interesting. Debtors are borrowers. And creditors are lenders. Okay? So here's the question. In inflation, right, when there's inflation, who does it benefit? Does it benefit the lender or the borrower? Does it benefit the lender or the borrower? You all know how loans work, right? So you borrow, pay a certain amount of interest until you pay off the loan. So how does that work? Who benefits?
Interest rate goes up, the debtors get more.
The borrowers benefit when interest rate goes up. So borrowers,
No,
the creditors get more. Look, bear in mind the interest rate is fixed.
oh, it's fixed.
Yeah, the interest rate is fixed, okay? So it's like if it's 5% of like $100, then you just keep getting $5. That's the lender. And then as the borrower, you keep paying $5. So when interest rate go up, who does it benefit?
I think
Borrowers? Why?
like not exactly benefit, but it hits the lender more because like your $5 is worth less.
Very good. So, no pocket money. I lend you $60, you're going to buy chicken rice. And the chicken rice is $2. Okay? So I effectively lend you 30 plates of chicken rice. When you return me the $60, right? Let's say you're very nice, you return me $80 because I'm a loan shark, right? I charge you a lot of interest. But then chicken rice becomes $4 already. So when I lend you effectively 30 plates of chicken rice. When you return me the money, you only left 20 plates. So what am I teaching you? I'm teaching you the real concept, the concept of real repayments, right? Because the truth is, when you lend money and you borrow money, what you really care is what you can buy with the amount of goods and services. So when I lend you money like that, right, and I take back only 20 plates of chicken rice worth, right, it's as if I put money in the bank, right, and they give me negative interest, they take money away from me, and then I get back less than before. Makes no sense. Why the hell do I want to lend you? Right? So I charge you interest now, I charge you 33% interest. But not good enough because the inflation rate wiped out my interest. Right? So end up I get negative returns. So in times of inflation, borrowers benefit, lenders lose out. Because lenders' real return goes down. And borrowers' real repayment goes down. It's great for them. So you think about it, logically, right? If you borrow money to buy a house, which is called a mortgage, it's fantastic in terms of inflation. Because rentals are nominal, correct? Rental payment you receive is nominal terms now. So rentals will go up with inflation, but your repayment stays constant. So that's how you make money, right? The value of the house will go up as well. So when you sell it and you repay, you actually make money as well. So here's the question. How does this point explain worsening income inequality in times of inflation? Right, because borrower benefit, right? Lender lose out, right? How does this point explain rising income inequality in times of inflation? Will there be rising income inequality or will there not be rising income inequality? Someone wants to try? Any idea? How does this explain rising income inequality? Go on. You want to try? Okay, then let me walk you to the conclusion again. You see, right, the reason why I asked this question, I don't know if it went through your mind. I think the problem that a lot of people have will be poor people borrow, right? Right? You imagine that poor people are the ones that need to borrow. So if the less lower income groups borrow, then borrowers benefit. That actually lowers income inequality. So if I'm telling you that it worsens income inequality, it means that the wealthy must be the borrowers and the poor must be the lenders. So then the question becomes, how does that make sense, right? Right? How come the rich are the biggest borrowers? Very good, right? So in a way, the flawed way that the banking system works is that the more money you have, the more credit you can take. And the best example I can give you is your house. Because household debt for a mortgage, right, is typically one of the biggest components of household debt. So the wealthier you are, the bigger your house, the more expensive it is, the bigger your mortgage is. If you buy a $500,000 HDB, right, your mortgage is typically about 350 grand, about 75%, or 400,000, 80%. If your house is $1 million, your mortgage is 800 grand. the rich can borrow more side. What about the lender side? You see, a lot of people think that banks are lenders. They kind of are, but they're not really the true lenders because the true lenders are the savers. The bank is just an intermediary. The bank is, because you see, right, it's a nightmare if let's say you got $1,000 a day you don't need to spend. Then you go around, hey, you want to borrow money? You want to borrow money? I charge you interest. That's a nightmare, right? So the bank is an intermediary. You deposit money in the bank pays you an interest. They bundle a lot of $1,000 together and they lend it to someone to buy a car or buy a house. Right, so they charge the person that borrows for car, for house, about 3%, and they pay you at 1%, and then they make the difference. That's how a bank's business model works, fundamentally. So why are the poor people more likely to be lenders? Because if you don't have that big sum of money, then it's just sitting there in the bank, right, collecting interest as a saver. Okay, so it's a bit of a simplification, right? This is not like empirical or what, it's a bit of a simplification, but you get the implications of it. Right? Poor people, less credit worthy, less able to borrow. Wealthy people, more credit worthy, more able to borrow. So in times of inflation, the wealthy will benefit, the poor will lose out. Cool? So that widens income inequality as well. The last one, holders of financial assets versus physical real assets. Now, if you scared you forget the debtors creditors thing, right, just put on the chicken rice thing. I'm sure that will remind you. Right, the real terms of how many plates of chicken rice you can buy. That's the implication, right, of lowered real repayment cost. Okay, holders of financial assets. Physical real assets is like real estate, right? So property and all that is considered physical and real assets. Financial assets. Okay, of course you think about bonds, you think about stocks, even a savings account, right? Or a kind of savings plan, fixed deposit and all that are all considered financial assets. Because when you actually take on a fixed deposit, technically the money is not yours for a moment, right? It's a promise, it's a contract between you and the bank that says, oh, you put the money in me for 6 months, you don't touch it, I'll pay you how much interest. Right? So it's a financial asset because you don't really own the cash at the moment in time. So, who do you think loses out in times of inflation? The real asset people or the financial asset people? Financial asset people, right? Because financial asset, when you buy, the easiest example will be fixed deposit. If you hold a fixed deposit and inflation goes up, you go into negative real return. Same if you buy a bond. You buy a bond, the way a bond works, right, is you buy a $100 bond, let's say it pays a 5%, what they call coupon. I think you also have the term dividends, right? For stocks, it's called dividends. For bonds, it's called a coupon. It's the same idea. It's just a money to pay money to you, right? You buy a $100 bond, and if it's 5% interest, you get $5 every year or every half yearly or something. When inflation comes, it reduces the real value of how much I paid you. So your 5% could get wiped also if inflation is really high. For stocks, in real life, I think stocks is a lot more complicated now. But if we just simplify it, by and large, with the inflation, it's the same idea. Your dividends, the value goes down. Right? The value of your dividend goes down. So you get less return. So it's not that great to hold financial assets. It's better to hold real assets in times of inflation because the value of the asset goes up in normal terms. Right? Housing prices will go up when there's inflation. Right? Factory prices will go up. Stuff like that. So again, if you want to think about it, how does this worsen income inequality? So the catch is, physical assets, real assets tend to be more expensive in the sense that you can't buy a fraction of a house. But when you buy a stock, you buy a fraction of a company. Right? You can do a fixed deposit with like $3,000. But unless you have like $100,000 over $1,000, you can't buy a piece of real estate. You can't buy a factory, you can't buy a farm, you can't buy any of these things. So again, real assets tend to be the domain of the wealthy. Financial assets tend to be the domain of the poor. Of course, your counter argument will be if you're rich, you probably have all kinds of assets. Yes. But if you have more real assets than I do as a poor person, then you still benefit more than me in terms of inflation. And I get hit more than you. Okay? So, 4 instances of an arbitrary distribution, a redistribution of income in times of inflation. Okay? Can 5, shoe leather and many costs. Every time I talk about this, right, people laugh, right? But it's real. I mean, at least that's what textbooks tell you. The reason why we call it shoe leather cost is because in times of inflation, right, your money diminishes in value very quickly. So the amount of cash that you hold on you is not enough. So you keep having to go to the bank to take money, and you wear out the soles of your shoe. That's why we call it shoe leather cost. Right? So the assumption, the setup here is that you don't hold all your cash or money in cash, right? So you hold it in the bank. So if there's rising inflation, very rapid inflation, then these things are getting more and more expensive very, very quickly. Today I can buy bread is $2. Tomorrow I can buy bread is $6. You see the problem? So you keep needing to hold more and more cash on you. It's a scenario. I mean, no one does it in real life because nowadays you can use bank cards and stuff, so you find it hard to visualize. Right? But that's the back when there's no banking and stuff like that. That kind of an idea. So that's shoe leather. Manual cost is literally refers to like, you just imagine if you have inflation, you keep needing to print new menus if you are a restaurant. That's bloody annoying. That's a cost. Putting these two together, actually what shoe leather cost and menu cost represents is simply the loss of efficiency and the wastage of resources that results from high inflation. Right? The need to update the menus, the need to keep drawing money represents an inefficiency.
Well, my teacher said that the examiners asked about it recently. Like the return report that they got, they were like, oh, why students mentioned it? Like 2 years ago.
Since you reported it out, right? If you ever read this in your essay, this is one of the most trivial points. It's literally like 3 lines and just be done with it.
How is it true? Is it like 3 lines?
Is it like what? Like shorter, is it? Yeah, I mean, what I mean is that it's going to be a very short thing. Since we're nearing the end, I'll tell you the most important points. The first 4 are the most important. Okay? For number 4, right, I don't need all 4 when you write essays. Just any 2. I would say pick the easiest 2 that you can explain, which should most likely be A and B. That's the 2 easiest ones to explain. Okay? 1 is a very short point. 4, if you just talk about the first 2, also quite short. That's why in total it's kind of like 3 points. 2 and 3 important, right, for a very simple reason. They affect your other macro goals. That's why your 2 and 3 is a big deal. Okay, I will finish up the page and then I'll let you off. Oh wait, let me see. Now maybe you draw the diagrams on the. I don't know. We'll finish up the page and I'll let you off. Okay. Wage price spiral, causing a breakdown in the function of money. Money stops being a good store of value and households will spend it as quickly as possible, or even resort to barter trading. Now, what this scenario is talking about, I'll tell you what a wage price spiral is later, but basically what this scenario is about is that, well, the monetary system is what we call the fiat money system. Meaning the money is just a piece of paper. The only reason we use it is because there's an implicit guarantee by the government that it has value. And everyone agrees to accept it. You get what I mean? It's kind of like virtual currency. Like, why in the world, if you play, I don't know, like, do people trade Fortnite currency? I don't know, like, whatever. Okay, the point being, whatever game, you know what Fortnite is, right? You don't know what Fortnite is? Okay, never mind. Whatever game you are playing, right, virtual currency, long time ago was WoW, World of Warcraft, right? You know, all your RPGs and all that. There are people who are willing to spend real money to buy fake in-game money. Why? Because the fake in-game money can be used in the game to buy virtual stuff that you want. So what I'm trying to illustrate to you is that what the concept of money is actually very simple. It's just something that represents value that is agreeable to everyone and we are willing to trade it. Right? It's supposed to serve as a store of value. So today I sell you something for $50, I can take that $50 to go and buy something else tomorrow. When you have very, very, very high inflation rates, money loses its value very quickly. And it stops being a good store of value, such that people will not want to use it anymore. So it leads to a breakdown of the monetary system. The logic behind that is very simple. Imagine you operate a provision shop in Singapore, right? You sell bread and stuff. Today a customer walk in and they hand you like 20 bucks because they buy like groceries and all that. The next moment you take it to the chicken rice store, oh sorry, chicken rice today is $30. Right, from $3 to $30. That's 1,000 times inflation rate. Right? That's what we call hyperinflation. Very, very high rates of inflation. A very extreme example, but you get the idea, right? You will stop wanting to receive money because the money is no value. You take it today and tomorrow you can't use it. Whereas at the point you received it, you thought, hey, 20 bucks, I can buy 6 packets of chicken rice, but you can't even buy one. Right? So when that happens, people will barter trade. That means you're like, you know what, I'm not going to sell stuff to you. You want to buy my bread and my eggs and all that, okay, bring me chicken rice. Right then I'll trade with you. That kind of thing. So what has happened historically is that, I think one of the most famous cases was Zimbabwe. You find that in a lot of textbooks. So when there's hyperinflation, right, in some of these developing countries, what they tend to do is that they will tend to use other more stable international currencies. So they start accepting like US dollars, for example, right, until they create a new currency and they restore some parity and some stability in order to restore a more stable rate of inflation. A wage price spiral, I will go into detail when we go to page 6 when we draw the diagrams for you. But all you need to understand is that basically wages and general price levels could have an interplay effect. Why? Because wage expectations are first and foremost driven by cost of living expectations. Right? That's how come if you live in Singapore, you expect to earn 3,000 plus a month when you graduate from school. Right? Because that's the amount of money that you think you need to survive in Singapore. But the expectation could be very different if you work in like London or New York, because the cost of living is higher, you might expect more, 4,000, 5,000 per month, for example. Right? So because of that, when you have inflation, people will fight for higher wages. But here's the thing, wages contribute to inflation as well. So the wages contribute to inflation, right? Then workers will fight for higher wages, and with the higher wages, you can buy more stuff as well, right? The consumption goes up. That becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because this interplay between cost push and demand pull inflation. And that will be one of the reasons and one of the ways in which inflation will go out of control. And if it goes out of control, as I just explained to you, then it leads to a breakdown in the function of money. Right, which will be problematic. Okay? Simple. So if you get an essay, the truth is every single macro goal we've covered so far can all be turned into standalone essays. You'll be things like, well, explain the factors of the goal, and then discuss the consequences of the goal. That is the two most standard essays you must be prepared to write, which is what's the pros and cons, right, of each of these goals, what causes the goals, what causes the problems to arise when it comes to the goal. Okay? Questions? If not, I will let you go.
Can you put 5 and 6 together?
Sorry?
Like,
Oh, I mean, you can't really put it together unless you just mean you write one after another in the same paragraph.
I mean, like, you explain by saying, like, the last part, you say hyperinflation or whatever, now then you say about the workers.
Not really, because you don't need hyperinflation to incur shoe leather and new cost.
No, but like, you can say that, like, if the work for the money is very little, means you need more of the money to, you need more of the money, you need to carry more of the money to buy.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, you could put them together. Questions? I know you're a bit overloaded now. It's inflation